James is going to review an Orchid Astronomy by Tasnuya Hayden. And I'll show you the cover, or a little peek at it, underneath that slip. And go ahead, James, and talk about it.
Okay. An Orchid Astronomy.
Yeah, you read more about it, more of it than I did.
Yeah, I read all of it.
Yeah, I didn't. I read the first bit, and then usually I read about the author first, and then I read the book. But I was reading the first bit, and then I was like, where is this woman coming from? And then I read about the author, and I was like, well, that's good that she's what was it? Engineer consultant or something.
Consulting engineer. Well,
yeah.
Tasnuya Hayden. So it's Tasnuya. It's poorly printed here. She's a Canadian writer of Bengali descent based in Calgary, Alberta, where she works as a consulting engineer and fiction editor for Filling Station. Filling is...
She has a lovely smile.
Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah.
But
both James and I were thinking her writing seemed pretentious because she...
That's not arrogant, it's pretentious.
Yeah.
She's pretending to know more than she does. Yeah?
It's really, really annoying when writers will name drop, especially people from
stuff that they don't know about.
Scientific community or something like that.
I mean, Van Morrison's awful for it. At least the kind of middle to maybe late period Van Morrison maybe stopped doing it. But he, rave on, John Donne. Like William Butler Yeats wrote this, A Vision. I think that's the one he meant. James Joyce wrote, does he say, I think it's probably Finnegan's Wake, because that'd be more pretentious. And so on and so forth. He goes, John Donne, and so on and so forth. And you can tell he's just, maybe he's read this stuff. Anyway,
you gotta remember that.
She works as a consulting engineer and fiction editor for Filling Station, lowercase f on filling, uppercase S for station. I don't know why the difference. Canada's experimental literary magazine. Aren't there other ones too? But at any rate, her work has appeared in Nod magazine, Jaipur Journal, Anti-Lang, I don't know if that means anti-language or what, Anti-Lang, Carte Blanche, lowercase for both C and B, QWERTY. And if you guys don't know what that means, referring to typewriters. But at any rate, yeah. So I suppose she serves some sort of useful function as an engineer. But when it comes to a fiction editor for Canada's experimental literary magazine, she's a settler colonialist. Okay? She's a settler colonialist. What right does she have to come here and squat on the this one particular magazine? There's plenty of people who'd be willing to do it, who are relatively speaking native, and some absolutely speaking indigenous folks. What gives her the right? You see, like when I open up these things, I know who actually pays. What's the bill for this stuff? Okay? It's you and me, and Pauline here, and our Chihuahua. So, Alberta government, Canada Council of the Arts. See? They're the ones who pay. No, not they. We.
So anyway, I borrowed this book from the
she's
library.
Exploiting us. She's a settler colonialist. If she wants to actually do a consulting thing and kind of like make herself useful, that's good. But I don't want her making herself useless at my expense, and, well, Pauline can speak for herself, and our Chihuahua's expense. She's a settler colonialist. To that extent, I have no use for it. That's when she publishes this. Also, this was put out by the University of Calgary, publicly funded. So 4 different...
well, I couldn't figure out why. Usually universities, they'll publish something if they're, you know, it's their employees or something like that that are doing this stuff. But I can't see, there's no mention of that in her write-up about the author, and so it kind of confused me, especially since her writing is not, this isn't poetry. This isn't even, to call it short prose would be
well, prose usually has some sort of a point.
Exactly. So to call it that would even be a stretch. Like, this is just, basically it's a grocery list of sentences that don't even seem connected. It's really hard to read.
You know, it's kind of like
James
one sentence connected with another, but it's, see, like these ones I think are connected. The ice is melting faster and faster now. Presumably that's global warming. What do they call it now? Climate crisis? Climate catastrophe? Every year, faster, the orchid agrees. Faster. So what does that mean? Like it starts growing earlier in the spring. We do have orchids around here. And it agrees. So is it, it's just, it's, you know, the snow melts faster and faster. So agreeing, you know, it doesn't really suggest an image, right? Ice is melting faster and faster now. It really doesn't suggest. On the morning they found sarvis, so that's set up like a Scandinavian word. I don't know what sarv means. This would mean like wise, and it could mean, I think, wise and wow, that's really wise, or it could mean likewise. Okay, so wrapped in kelp and seaweed, I'd caught a cold. Sarvis. So sarvis is some sort of character, keeps on recurring. It might be something out of myth that I'm not up on. Oh man, you know, I'm not up on Scandinavian myth. Dreams of the seascape. Okay, now this one's set up like a haiku kind of. Dull bits of glass pressing into shoulders. Okay. Dull bits of glass pressing into shoulders. Spilled beer and muddy footprints. Now, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 5. So it starts off 5, and then she couldn't quite fit it into the 7, so she went 7 syllables. And then she couldn't fit it into the 5, so she went with 7 syllables. So she went 5, 10, 7. So it's set up like a haiku. Dreams of the seascape.
So I
Dull
don't know.
bits of glass pressing into shoulders. What does that mean? Dull bits of glass. Spilled beer and muddy footprints. I mean, it's like 3 images that don't cohere. Garbage.
Yeah.
At the end of spring, which came and went quickly. Okay, so what is that hooked to? This is the thing that's bothering me. At the end of spring, which came and went quickly. I think this is tying back to the ice is melting faster and faster now. But I no longer associate sunshine with drowning. Yeah, who gives a... I won't say, but you can read my mind, I hope. Tumbling towards the center of the galaxy at the birth and death place of millions of stars, the center of the galaxy, is it the... Well, that's kind of like astronomical...
Well, I couldn't really see a point to any of it. You know, like there's mention of orchids, there's mention of astronomy.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, well, there's the title.
Right, yeah,
but I'm like, why? It doesn't, there's nothing there to...
tie it together. Why would you, how far did you get? 10 pages?
Yeah, maybe. So
I got all the way through it. It's 190 pages.
I don't know how you did.
Oh,
so,
it's a struggle. Let me tell you.
This book is a good example of why people hate poetry.
Well,
most people say they hate poetry.
This is not poetry.
This is not poetry. That's why most people say they hate poetry. Because this is what they're looking at, and they're like, poetry's awful. No.
It is. Well, this is.
You like
stuff.
Songs. You like listening to songs. Yeah. You like, there's some great song lyrics out there. You like poetry.
Yeah.
This isn't poetry. That's why you don't like this.
This is garbage.
This is garbage.
Okay, so here we go with the name dropping. So this is on the second page, though it's numbered page 3. Even on his deathbed, so this would be 1955. I don't know if she'd actually know. But even on his deathbed, Einstein was reading Velikovsky, Immanuel Velikovsky. Oh, she would know about that, whereas I do. Okay, even on his deathbed, and he was. That was right there, you know, kind of like.
Well, obviously she does know about it because she put it in her book.
Okay.
What do you,
I'll finish it
you
up.
mean?
Even on his deathbed, Einstein continued to explore the equations that he hoped would be candidates for a unified theory. Okay?
Oh, okay.
So, doesn't mention anything about Velikovsky. She would know about it. Whereas I know about it. And hope would be candidates for a unified theory. You know, like candidates. It's like I'm trying this equation, which one do I go? He'd try stuff out on the flunkies who came after him. And, you know, he was their big hero. And then they made fun of him from about 1920. And it was Niels Bohr and stuff like that. Big fan of Einstein until Bohr became the big guy. So, you know, like, it was, what was it Einstein said to Bohr? Don't tell God what to do, or something like that. And Bohr couldn't take that because Bohr is, you know, I'm not telling God what to do, I'm God! Yeah, he was used to, well, he played on the Danish national team. Denmark would have a small population. And
so what you're saying is her knowledge of Velikovsky and Einstein is too superficial.
Well, she wouldn't even know about Velikovsky. She wouldn't even know about Velikovsky.
Yeah.
So Einstein knew Velikovsky. Einstein was working at Princeton, I think in an official capacity. He'd been brought over after the Nazis. Well after the Nazis actually had put a contract out on his life. I think that dates back to 23. I think he finally got out of Germany about 33 when the Nazis took over. And so they ended up kind of making a place for him, is my understanding of it, at Princeton, one of the Ivy League universities in the United States and by extension the world.
So what you're saying is, as a poet, she should demonstrate, not state.
There you go. I mean, you could check this up in some trashy little, you know, relativity for the masses or something like that. You can get this little factoid out of something like that. Okay, so a little paperback thing. Now, Velikovsky ended up at Princeton, not the university, the place. He wanted to be near Einstein. See, they were both Jews. And Einstein was for the state of Israel, and Velikovsky was a Zionist, more than Einstein, I think, would have been. And so he wanted to find a kindred spirit with Einstein. He wanted Einstein to get on the page, on the same page as Velikovsky was when it comes to catastrophism. So he convinced Einstein to read Worlds in Collision, which is about astronomy and catastrophism. And Einstein's reaction was, like he said to one person, well, he's kind of crazy or something like that about Velikovsky. But what he told Velikovsky, no, what he said another time, more accurate. Velikovsky wasn't crazy, he was misguided. When it comes to catastrophism and astronomy generally, he was very much guided. He's like a guided missile. But when it came to identifying, and he actually found a place in world history. This is in history, and not prehistory. Eh? Doesn't involve paleontology and the wiping out of dinosaurs. I've been able to date it to roughly 1850 BC. Velikovsky gets the date wrong because he sticks to the biblical stuff. I don't depend on the biblical chronology. I depend on historical documents, and the stuff I depend on is Mesopotamian material, Babylonian and Assyrian. And I've actually got the, Velikovsky didn't even find this stuff. The weird thing is he looked at Egyptian data and he couldn't find that much for the what he correlates with the Exodus. He gets it wrong. He gets it wrong. He doesn't even look this stuff up from Mesopotamia. Why wouldn't you? I have. And it's 1850 BC. And it's a historical account. It's what ended the Sumerian civilization. It's stunning. It was way worse than what hit Egypt. And 1850 BC, the dating system is off by maybe 150 years for Mesopotamia. For Egypt, it's just stunningly off because the Egyptologists are so arrogant in a particular way, pretentious. What were you going to say?
I was going to say the reason that I got this book out of the library is because I wanted a book on orchid identification for the Canadian Rocky Mountains.
Man, oh man, did you blow it.
This, I didn't know what this was. I was looking at interlibrary loans to try to find an orchid book, which I did not find. I kind of figured, oh, well, our libraries wouldn't cater to something that's actually important to some people. So, but honestly, I was disappointed that no libraries in the province had a good orchid identification book to borrow. And this is what I came up in my search, and so I borrowed it, and I'm like, Orchid Astronomy, what's that going to be, right? And so it came, and I'm flipping through, and I'm like, this is not what I hoped it would be, but it's poetry, and it must have been guided to me for a reason. So I'm thankful that this poetry book was guided to me, and then I started reading it, and I'm like, I'm not thankful this poetry book. I don't know why it was guided to me. Maybe just a coincidence.
At any rate, after that, after Einstein and the unified theory, roots or feet? Who gives up? I'm not finishing it up. I'll let you fill in the blank. And then right after that, the mention of Bjorn, an involuntary lump lodged in our throats. Yeah? Collectively? Wow. So Bjorn means bear in the Scandinavian language. Bjorn. It's a first name as well. Bjorn Borg. And then I whispered, the stars are out. A bloodshot gaze simmering. So this is typical for fake haiku stuff. Oftentimes they'll leave out the third thing. It'll be A and then B. A and B, kind of. A bloodshot gaze simmering. Simmering, bloodshot, hot, red, something like that. I whispered, the stars are out. Why are the eyes bloodshot? You know, like, convinced yourself that we'd be staying until the ice disappeared. Leaves the you out. You convinced yourself that we'd be staying until the ice disappeared. Staying until the ice. That's going to be a while, okay? You know, like, oh, the ice is going to disappear, and I'll live to be, how old would you say she is? 25, 30, and, oh, the ice is going to disappear before her life expectancy is through, or something like that. You know, like, that's not going to happen. I mean, there are going to be cities that are going to be challenged, and stuff like that. Okay, your name started with a diphthong. Who gives a diphthong? So, which name is it? Whose name is it? Who gives a? It means it would start with a EU or AU, Augustine or something like that. But
yeah. And somehow you made it through every page of this book. I don't know how.
I'm a patient person. For the second time, losing yourself inside Mama's shuttered bedroom. Give me a sentence! For the second time, you lost yourself inside Mama's shuttered bedroom. Don't go around with this stupid stuff. For the second time, losing yourself inside Mama's shuttered bedroom. You know, there's been this stupid thing ever since. In the station, in the metro, the apparition of these faces in the crowd, ... petals on a wet black bough. No verb. You know, there's got to be no verb in the Japanese. Yeah, you got to have a little patience. You get through the 17 syllables, and by the time you're through, in a typical Japanese haiku, you run across a verb, because it's an SOV language. English is an SVO language. And for your ignorant, stupid fake left-wingers out there, hopefully there's only half of you left. It'd be one person, but it's half of mine. SVO stands for subject, verb, object. So English, you don't have to wait around for the verb that much. Jack hit John. Subject, verb, object. I'm not going to explain the difference between a subject and an object, but at least you should know the difference between. I'll tell you that subjects and objects are nouns, and you should be able to tell the difference between those two things and a verb. Japanese is a language that's classed as a SOV language. Subject, object, verb. Noun, noun, verb. You gotta wait around. Now most of these idiots, like Ezra Pound's the guy who really made this stuff funky in English language. Well, yeah, haiku, yeah. He didn't know Japanese from squat. Now, I don't know it from much, but I've actually taken it at university. Eh? And I've actually translated some stuff. Okay? Some haiku. Translated. Not good translations, but what the hey. I kind of know the way that language is structured, Japanese. I kind of know the way English is structured. And I kind of can appreciate the Japanese poetry. And I kind of know a little bit about English poetry. Your name, starting with a diphthong. Say, your name starts with a diphthong. Stop this stupid stuff where you're not using verbs. Starting's derived from a verb, but that's not a sentence. Eh? You know, the previous one, convinced yourself that we'd be staying until the ice disappeared. That's not a sentence. For the second time, losing yourself inside Mama's shuttered bedroom. That's not a sentence. That's 3 sentences, putative sentences, in a row that aren't sentences. Modern physics steps into the realm of mysticism. Oh, man. When I hit that one, that's only the 2nd page. Oh, she showed some patience. It's the bottom of the 2nd page. We're agreed. Wow. Okay, one of my main criticisms of quantum theory is it's just mysticism. It's nuts. It is absolute nuts. The stuff you get out of that is, oh, this thing exists, but it doesn't exist. Many different things can exist at the same time. And religious people love quantum theory. Oh, they love it. That mama would choose suffocation. Now, does that mean that mama would choose suffocation or something? Or is that, look at that mama over there with her, you know what's in the camera. What is that? That mama would choose suffocation. I think it's, I know that mama would choose suffocation. How do you read that one?
I don't know.
Yeah, and you know, like Pauline, there's a subtext to what she's saying. I hope.
I mean, I can't even figure out how that relates to sentences
physics
that have come before.
Modern physics steps into the realm of mysticism.
That have come after.
That mama would
like
choose
I
suffocation.
said, it's just a grocery list of sentences that aren't related.
Okay. Buried alive. Okay, now we jump again. Buried alive under unyielding winter storms. Buried. You know, like, have you ever been in a storm and really felt you were buried? Maybe. Like if it were really raining lots or something like that. Unyielding winter storms, buried. I guess that would be buried under snow. Winter, buried. Okay, buried alive under unyielding. Snow kind of yields. It'd have to be almost like glacier thick or something like that.
Well, I mean, she is talking about orchids, so one could imagine that perhaps she's talking about the orchids being under, like...
Well, could be, but it could be anything.
Meters
But
of
what
snow.
is buried alive? You see, that's not a sentence.
And they wouldn't be strong enough to get out,
It's-
so
it's
for
not a
them,
sentence.
it
So
would be...
why should someone care? The whole idea with a sentence is to give you some sort of context for meaning. And she can't be bothered. And you know, I can be bothered, but I can't see anyone else in the whole world being bothered, because I'm kind of compulsive about things. But
Yeah.
the service can also cause unintended harm by becoming too curious about human life. So I think this would be wise, or something like that. So maybe this is a character. Frankly, it sounds like something invented by Dr. Seuss. You know what the weird names and stuff like that. Anyway, it's got a capitalized S. I don't know what SARV is in Scandinavian.
No, Dr. Seuss made sense. And
Oh, way more than
was
this.
way more artful than this.
Yeah. A generation that has abandoned common sense, science, and philosophy. Now, is science and philosophy common sense, or is that the generation, science and philosophy? And again, it's not a sentence. A liaison, illicitly. Huh? You know, that's not a sentence. The number of constellations visible all years increases as one moves farther north. Not really. You know, what she's talking about, I think, is the longitudes go closer and closer as you go farther and farther north, until they meet at the pole. You see how that goes? They meet. And I think but the number of constellations is roughly the same. You know, it's just the number of constellations per degree of longitude goes up.
Oh, that's what she's talking
I think that's
about.
what she's talking about.
Probably.
But she doesn't know. Now she's got all sorts of constellations in here and other features. I know enough about astronomy. I know probably way more than she does. So Polaris, that's the North Pole. Okay. And what else has she chucked in here? Well, I'll look at the beginning, because I think this stuff will be Corona Borealis. That means the northern crown. So it's a constellation in the northern part of the sky.
So
right?
did you, after getting right to the end of that book, could you find any sort of...
There's no
Okay.
rhyme or reason. There's definitely no rhyme.
No.
And yeah. Well, I can't say definitely. I'm not going to go through and try to scrabble stuff. I think there was one thing that was right. Ursa Minor. That's the Little Dipper. And it is, the Little Dipper's in it. And it means the little bear, and that's the thing that has the North Star in it. Ursa Minor 2. One, I don't know why it deserves 2. That's a small constellation, and it's not very bright. Lyra 1. That's the liar. Okay, so I think the big star in that one is Vega. Would she even know that? Would she care? Lyra 2. Cassiopeia. That's a constellation. Again, it's in the northern sky. She was rescued by Perseus. Again, he's in the northern sky from a monster. He's actually carrying the head of the monster. It's Medusa. And the Arabic name for that, and it's our name too, for that star is called Algol, and it means the ghoul. We get our word ghoul from Arabic. And the thing is, she winks. It's supposed to be her eye. And it's a variable star. No, it's not variable. As I recall, it's an eclipsing binary, and it has a lighter companion thing gets in the way, right?
Oh.
And it makes it look as though it's blinking. I think that's what it is.